Up. There we go. This is a barrel, and coming up on the channel sometime soon, I'm going to be filling this bad boy up. But the thing is, it's not as easy as just buying a barrel and filling it with spirits. It's not quite how it works. You need to put a little bit of love and care into your barrel to make sure everything's good first. How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse and this is Still It. And when Still It hit 100,000 subscribers, thank you for that, by the way, guys. Thank you so freaking much for that. I decided to treat myself and to treat you with something that viewers of the channel have been asking me to do for a long time, which is get a real down barrel and stop using glass all the time. So I decided to do just that. At that point in time, the only option I had, or the smallest option I could get my hands on, was this 20-litre beast here. It felt only right to get it engraved up front as well, for the memorabilia's sake. The barrel sat here for a little while. We're almost at 150,000 subscribers now. But the Patreons and I have been working on what we're going to fill this thing with, and I'm really looking forward to that. Love Child is going to be fun. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about how do we prepare a barrel like this to have spirits put into it later on. Because there are some things that can go wrong. Namely, you can lose all your spirits because they leak all over the place. So one, you kind of want to do everything you can to ensure that the barrel's not leaking. And two, check to see if it is. Before we get stuck right in though, guys, I need to introduce you to the sponsor of today's video. It's Into the AM, and they make these dope ass shirts. My closet literally consists of whiskey shirts, YouTuber merch, and Into the AM shirts. I was wearing these things way before they ever contacted me about sponsoring a video. Seriously, go back and look through just the thumbnails of my videos for, I don't know, like the last year. Probably 60% of the time I'm wearing an Into the AM shirt. This shirt I wear all the time, the shirt I had on at the beginning of the video, and your favorite shirt, the one that blows up the comment section every time I wear the damn thing. You know, the bottle with the aliens and the rainbow, you know what I mean. They're comfortable, they're well made, and they have these dope ass patterns on the front of them. Using the link in the description down below gives you 10% off pretty much everything on the site. You want to sign up for their shirt club? Sweet. You want to buy their packs, which are already discounted? Sweet, another 10% off. Patreons, keep your eyes out, guys, because I've got a couple extra of these shirts I need to give away, so we'll be doing that over on Patreon. First things first, depending on the barrel you have, you may notice you have holes in it. Holes are not conducive to holding liquid, and that is because some barrels come with taps, and they all come with bungs. I opted to go with a simple wooden tap. To be honest, I'm a little bit dubious as to whether or not this is really going to be liquid tight for any meaningful amount of time. Worst case scenario though, I can just basically use this as a bung and stand the barrel up if I absolutely have to. But let's install the thing and give it a go, because I've got no reason to not trust it. It's just, it's on my radar, that's all. That tap in there nice and tight, and then this guy here into the hole nice and tight as well, and I'm going to get a rubber mallet and just give that a gentle tap. Don't know where my rubber mallet is, so we're going with a hide mallet instead. That should do it. This barrel also came with a rest, like so, which is great, and it fits quite nicely. Happy with that. Nice for displaying. I don't know where we're going to keep this. Actually, that's a good question, guys. Where in this shed distillery do you think I should keep this thing? Because I'd like it to show up in the background in videos from time to time, and I'd like you guys to be able to ask about it when you want to ask about it. Yeah, if you have thoughts on where you think it should live, let me know in the comments down below. Oh, I should say too, guys, this barrel here, I ended up getting it from Barry's Barrels here in New Zealand. Now I did pay for this, don't get me wrong, it wasn't sent free or anything like that, and rightly so. But if you are looking for barrels here in New Zealand, your options are very thin. It's damn hard to get them in this kind of size with any options whatsoever. So if you're in New Zealand, Barry's Barrels isn't a bad idea. I'll chuck a link in the description down below to the website. If you are in America, You've got all sorts of options, but once again, I'll chuck some links in the description down below. The next step is to fill this bad boy up with pretty warm, borderline hot water. It's almost certainly going to leak to start with. So I'm going to set this thing up outside. It might be leaking for literally a week, so I'm going to set it up outside the shed on the other side of the big door. It can leak away till its heart's content over a week or two. And hopefully, as these staves sort of soak up water, create a tighter fit against each other, they'll become watertight. But I just don't know how long that's going to take, and I don't want it leaking in here just for the hell of it. So let's whack this thing outside, put some hot water in it, and see what happens, shall we? I initially filled the barrel with warm water just to make the process a little bit quicker at about 50 degrees centigrade, and the thing leaked like a sieve. But I kept topping it up with cold water and kept letting it leak, and over the course of about 10 days it slowly stopped to nothing more than just a seep out of the bottom of the barrel, and then stopped leaking altogether. So this has been sitting for about 2 weeks now, and I'm pleased to tell you that it's stopped leaking completely. But that didn't have to be the case, and to be honest, I almost hoped that it did keep leaking without a little further interaction so we could talk about it. And because it may not be the case for you, if you get a barrel, let's talk about it anyway. But before we do that, I wanted to give you a little bit of a close-up of some of the details of this barrel. I'll throw some B-roll up on screen now to sort of show you what some of the, I guess, the water damage, you could call it, looks like, but I'm thinking of it more like a water patina. I think it's really freaking cool. It's adding character to the barrel. It's literally making it one of a kind and making it entirely mine, which I love. I think that's really cool. There was a chance, at least a decent chance, that this barrel was just going to not stop leaking. And like I said, it took 2 weeks of just sort of refilling it every now and again, topping it up, letting it really, I guess, soak up enough moisture to swell up enough to create a watertight seal everywhere. But if it didn't do that, there are a few things that I would have done, to help ensure that that did happen. And let's talk about them in, I guess, increasingly serious measures. I wouldn't necessarily do them exactly in this order. I'll give you sort of my thoughts on when you should do each and why you should do each, and look at your specific situation, and you can decide what to do next if you're having trouble with a leaky barrel. The first technique, and probably the one that you want to try first just because it's probably the easiest and kind of the fastest, is to use beeswax. Now, this beeswax was provided with the barrel from Barry's Barrels, so there you go. But if you don't get beeswax with your barrel, to be honest, the stuff is pretty freaking easy to find. Good thing about it is it's a completely natural product. You don't have to worry about, it's not like using glue or something crazy on your barrel. So that's a good thing. Now, there are 2 ways to use this stuff that I have seen a lot of people mention. The first is simply down and dirty, grab the stuff, identify the spot on the barrel where you think the leak might be coming from. Perhaps it's a specific join between 2 staves. Perhaps, there's an imperfection in the barrel somewhere, a little crack or whatever it happens to be. You'll see from the pattern of the water sitting on the barrel roughly where it's coming from. Grab the stuff, use it like a freaking crayon. So let's imagine that the barrel was leaking between these 2 staves right here. I guess the little crack you'd call it between the 2 staves was all damp around that area. We can literally just take one of these little bits of beeswax, rub it in like a crayon, and gum that whole area up. So force it into the crack, fill that crack up, and the idea is then that you would, top the barrel up, refill it, leave it for 3 or 4 days, see if you had an improvement. Now, the other way that you can use beeswax is to heat the stuff, melt it into a liquid, and tip it, sort of pour it over the area that's a problem. Obviously, just a little bit of common sense, guys. Be careful, the stuff's freaking hot. Rearrange the barrel so that the problem area is facing up, so gravity's helping you, not hindering you, and basically just do everything you can to get that liquid wax into the problem area, not just rolling off the problem area. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Okay, Moving on to number two. Number two is to take the barrel and submerge it. Get as much water into those staves as you can, get them swelling up as much as you can, and allow it to, once again, basically expand, push on every other part of the barrel and create that watertight seal. I actually considered doing this on about day 3 when it was still leaking fairly drastically, because the problem was I couldn't get the barrel to fill enough and stay full enough for long enough to really wet, all the top of the barrel over here. It was only, I'd fill it up and then an hour later it would be down to here. So in the end, I didn't actually completely submerge it. I would just take the hose, and every time I filled it up, I would squirt everything down all over the barrel in an attempt to just make sure that everything was actually getting wet. Now, if you do want to do this, obviously, guys, big container, fill it with water, fill the barrel up so it's not so buoyant, and just do the best you can. Chances are you're probably not going to be able to get the whole barrel underwater at any one time, depending on the size of the barrel and the size of containers you got to work with. Just move it around, make sure everything's soaked. Once again, this is one of those things where you're going to do that for a couple of days, pull it out, let it dry off around the outside, have the barrel full, and test it again to see how you're going. Now the third, and I would say probably final thing to try as a home distiller would be to tighten the hoops on the barrel. And I say that simply because it takes a little bit of handiwork, and if you can get away with just doing one of these other techniques that is easy and it just takes a couple of days to wait and see, it's probably easier. But essentially, if you have a look at the shape of the barrel, guys, the further the hoops are towards the center, the tighter they're going to be, because they're at a fixed diameter and the barrel is curved, so it's wider towards the middle of the barrel. All you need to do is move the hoops a little bit closer to the middle of the barrel. Depending on your level of handyman skills and your confidence in doing things like this, you may or may not find this the easiest thing on the list to do and just do it first, or the hardest thing on the list. I get it, that's why I've left it till last. The hoops, in my case, are made out of stainless steel and are these metal parts that go around the barrel to hold everything together in a barrel shape. Now, these hoops are going to be held onto your barrel, or held onto the barrel is not probably the right word, but held at the position on the barrel that they're in different ways. Some barrels, like the large barrels, often will have just little pins. These ones have actually got holes in the hoops with screws going through into the staves. You're going to just have to look at your barrel and sort of suss out how it's made. But the idea is basically going to have to remove those fastenings to allow the hoop to move, and then you're going to have to give it some fairly serious persuasion towards the middle of the barrel. Obviously, you can buy Cooper's tools and all that sort of stuff, but I think that's kind of overkill for someone messing around in their shed with 1 or 2 barrels. For me, the tools I would need would be a Phillips screwdriver, a hammer, and probably a pry bar. The order of operation would be to remove the screws from a single hoop, use the pry bar to make contact with the edge of the hoop itself, and then the hammer to apply persuasion pressure to that pry bar to move the hoop in the direction you want it to move in, towards the middle of the barrel, and then pop the screws back in to hold it in place. For those of you that aren't used to working with barrels, me included, I would suggest altering one hoop at a time, so there's only so many things that can go wrong. Another tip is not to just wail on the hoop in any one spot. You need to move it a very small amount at different points around the barrel, and it's easiest to work literally in a circle around the barrel. Place the tool, give it a nudge. Place the tool further around, give it another nudge, and keep on working your way around until you've moved the barrel enough to refix it again with either the nails, the pins, or the screws in the new spot. So because this barrel isn't actually leaking, I don't need to actually do this, and I kind of don't want to just mess with it for the hell of it, because I really want to get something into this very, very soon. Patreons, you know what I'm talking about. By the way, this is a good time. Thank you, Patreons. I need to say a big thank you to you guys for everything you do, for helping me out and letting me play with new toys like this on the channel. So thank you so much, Patreons. After it's conditioned, there's a couple of other things to keep in mind. So number one is, if you're going to be storing this for any length of time, it is really not a bad idea to have a sanitary solution in there, so nothing too crazy can go growing on the inside of the barrel. You don't want that. And the other thing is that once it is conditioned like this, you do not want it to dry out again. You want to keep it wet until it's ready to accept the spirit. Otherwise, all the hard work you've done is going to be for nothing, and you're going to be back to square one, or potentially even worse. It might contract and dry out in a way that means that it won't be watertight when you recondition it. There you have it, team. If you have any other tips, tricks, things you would suggest, if you've been working with barrels a lot, please put them in the comments, because this is literally me sort of finding information on the internet, packaging it up into something that is hopefully a little bit easier to understand and access for those that are new to it, and sending it on out there into the ether. So if you know what you're doing, give us some comments and tips in the comment section down below. That would be really freaking cool. If this video has helped you out, I would thoroughly appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up down below here. That helps me out a whole lot. And if you're not subscribed yet and you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button, because that really helps me out. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Keep on chasing the craft. See ya.